A lot of people think it's impossible to mistake their boss and the average passerby, and I've got a few reasons to prove you otherwise. And our first story. New executive assistant doesn't realize I'm one of the founders. And before we begin, a huge thank you to all who've subscribed to the channel and hit the like button. All right, about 10 years ago, my friends and I started our own startup. I was the chief marketing officer at the time. Within 2 years, we had over 100 employees and we're still growing. Between me, the chief executive officer, chief technology officer, and chief operating officer, there were 2 executive assistants helping us. However, they were getting overworked and pulling 12-plus hour days because of us, so we decided to hire 2 more assistants so that each of us would have one. One of the new exec assistants was assigned to the CEO. We'll call her Karen. For some reason, Karen thought she was in charge of the other exec assistants because she was under the CEO. Technically, they were all peers, but Karen assumed she had seniority. Within a week, she was bossing all the assistants around and making them do her work. I was out of town at the time, but my assistant, a lady that was with us for the longest, let me know what was going on. I'd just come back from a week at a conference. I was meaning to take that Monday off, but we had a meeting that Monday with our investors, and I couldn't miss it. I show up at the office around 8:30 a.m. coming in from the gym. I greet a few people, I go over to my desk to drop off my bags, and then change. As I head to the bathroom, Karen comes around the corner. There's one thing you need to know about me. I have a baby face, so I look at least 10 years younger than I really am. I was in my early 30s at the time, but I look like I could have graduated college that year. Karen, can I help you? Me. Hi, you must be Karen. Karen, yes, I am. And you are? Me. Well, I'm OP. Karen, you're OP? Don't be ridiculous, kid. You're barely old enough to rent a car. Tell me what you're doing here before I call for security. Me. Karen, I am OP, the Chief Marketing Officer. Karen, I know who the CMO is, and he's not you. He's a personal friend of mine, and I know the entire founding team for quite some time, so you can't lie to me. Show me your ID. My ID was back at my desk. Me. Fine, follow me. As we head over to my desk and I reach for my wallet, Karen snatches it before I can even open it. Karen, I don't think so. Trying to steal OP's wallet? I'm going to have you arrested, you little brat. Just then, the CEO walks in. Karen, CEO, you won't believe what just happened. I caught this crazy person pretending to be the CMO and stealing from his desk. CEO looks over at me and I just give him a, yes, this is happening look. CEO, can you tell me exactly what happened? Karen goes on a long rant about how I broke in here and was looking around all the desks for something to take when she finally caught me looking through the wallet. CEO asks Karen to check to make sure nothing is missing from CMO's, my wallet. She opens it up and on the front is my driver's license. I can see her pupils scanning my ID and her eyes getting wider and wider and then her mouth drops. Me. So can I have my wallet back now? Karen damn near throws my wallet at me and walks away as fast as she could, just shy of running. The CEO and I break into a huge laugh, and we chat a bit about Karen. Turns out everyone has been complaining about her. At first, the CEO was just going to reprimand her and tell her she needed a change, but after the debacle this morning, he wanted to let her go. I felt kind of bad. I didn't want her fired because of me. I didn't want to be known as that person. We ended up letting her stay for another week. She avoided me like the plague, but kept making everyone else's lives miserable. We let her go that Friday. However, as they say, she did not go quietly into the night. After the CEO gave her the bad news, she was pissed and came straight to me. She ripped my headphones off and started screaming at me about how it was an honest mistake what happened between us and how the place would fall apart without her around. The Karen scream is long and fierce, but at around 2 minutes I'd had enough. Me. That is enough out of you. Regardless of what your feeble mind thinks, your departure from this company was not my doing, but it was the icing on the cake. Damn near everyone here doesn't like you, and you've been bossing way too many people around when you have no authority over them. The other assistants do not report to you, and I've heard nothing but complaints about you in the 2 weeks you've been here. Now you can either walk out of here peacefully, or I can get security to do it. Karen was bright red and the entire office was watching us. My assistant comes over with Karen's purse and her belongings and then shoves them in Karen's arms. As Karen walks out, she yells back that we'll be hearing from her lawyer. We didn't hear anything. Well, I've always liked happy endings, especially when they're not happy for Karen. And our next story. I'm clearly security. Here's a little backstory. About 3 years ago, I worked security for a multinational shipping company. We'll call them BestX. Cast: me, my supervisor, tow operator, tow supervisor, and cop. We had issues with non-employees parking in our lot and leaving vehicles while they carpooled to other jobs. There was a carpool parking lot on the other side of the road, but I digress. It had gotten to the point where employees and truck drivers weren't able to find parking. It became such an issue that eventually OPS and security had to meet and decide to issue parking passes that went into the windshields of all employees' vehicles, making it easy to identify who should be or should not be parking. Security officers weren't required to get passes because we had our own reserved spaces. After about a month and a half, most employees had passes issued. We started tagging cars without passes with warnings notifying that soon we would start having vehicles towed. There were a few employees who procrastinated getting stickers, but after the warnings, the rest of them got their passes. A few weeks later, we started having cars towed that didn't have passes in the windshield. At this point, we had all the employees' vehicles in a database and we could check tags. If a vehicle is parked illegally, I would call for a tow. Fast forward about 3 months and we get to the purpose of this post. The towing company we contracted with to remove vehicles is in and out 3, 4, 5 times a day, so they're getting to know me. Apparently they hired a new guy who took the initiative and decided to cruise our lot and check on vehicles. I come out to check the lot just as he's finished hooking up my car that's parked in a reserved space for security. Me. Excuse me, who called for a tow? Tow truck driver. I cruised the lot to check on parking passes. This car didn't have one. Me. You aren't authorized to do lot checks. We call when a vehicle needs removed. Tow truck driver. It's already hooked, so nothing I can do. Going to the impound. Me. No, it's not. That's my car. Tow truck driver. It doesn't have a sticker. It gets towed. Me. Security's vehicles are exempt because we have our own parking spaces. Tow truck driver. It doesn't have a sticker. It gets towed. At this point, I'm beyond pissed, so I call my supervisor on the radio and ask him to come to the parking lot. Supervisor, what's going on? Tow truck driver, this car doesn't have a sticker, it gets towed. Me, that's my car, I didn't call for a tow. Supervisor, sir, why are you here if you weren't called? Tow truck driver, I was checking the lot for parking passes. Supervisor, okay, but why did you hook a vehicle from the reserve space? Tow truck driver, doesn't have a sticker, it gets towed. Supervisor, security's vehicles are exempted because we have our own reserved spaces. You need to release the vehicle. Tow truck driver, let me call my supervisor. So he calls his supervisor and puts the phone on speaker. Tow supervisor, once the vehicle's hooked up, my drivers can't release vehicle without payment. Supervisor, your driver has hooked up a vehicle illegally. We didn't call you. Tow supervisor, once a vehicle's hooked up, my drivers can't release it without payment. I'm fuming mad at this point, so I yelled, if my car is not dropped in the next 30 seconds, I'm calling the police. Tow supervisor, once the vehicle's hooked up, my driver can't release it without payment. Supervisor, how much is it? Tow truck supervisor, $135. Me. I'm not effing paying $135 to get my car back when it should have been towed in the first place. Tow supervisor, once a vehicle's hooked up, my driver's blah, 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 blah. So I'm done being patient. I called the police, not emergency, and I told them my car was in the process of being stolen. They dispatch an officer and hang up. Supervisor, tow truck driver, and tow supervisor are all still talking while I was talking to the dispatcher. Me. Cops are on their way. Put my car down. Tow truck driver. I can't. My boss said to just wait for the cops. So we wait about 5 or 6 minutes, then a cruiser shows up. Cop comes to me and asks what's going on. I tell him that the tow truck driver showed up without being called and hooked my car for not having a sticker. I explained that security vehicles were exempt since we had our own reserved spaces. I emphasized that the tow truck driver was not called. Cop, sir, you need to release this vehicle. Tow supervisor, still on speakerphone, once my drivers hook a car, they can't release it without payment. Supervisor, you weren't authorized to tow this car anyway. Cop, sir, you need to release the vehicle. Without authorization to tow, you're committing auto theft. Tow truck driver, okay, I'll drop it. Tow supervisor to tow truck driver, do not drop the car.